Namaste. My name is Hariprasad Verma, and welcome to the Sōma Maṇdala podcast, a podcast that helps you be better informed about trauma and healing through dialogues with experts in the field of trauma healing from around the world. I'm a trauma informed life and leadership coach and a yoga therapist. If you're keen to learn more about practices that can help with trauma healing, I invite you to sign up for my online community practice space by the same name, Sōma Maṇdala, where each month I curate somatic workshops on specific themes with incredibly gifted therapists from across the globe. You can use the link in the description to learn more and sign up to be part of the community. On that note, I'm excited to introduce the guest for the inaugural episode of Sōma Maṇdala podcast, Euphrasia Nyaki. Efu is my trainer in the Somatic Experiencing Practitioner Training Program conducted by the Somatic Experiencing International. Efu was born and raised in Tanzania, where she earned a Bachelor of Science degree, trained as a science teacher, and later was trained as a healer using holistic methods. Today, Efu is a faculty member of Somatic Experiencing and a professor of Family Constellation System Therapy by Hellinger Institute. In the last 30 years, Efu has been living in Brazil, facilitating trainings and therapy for trauma healing using somatic experiencing and family constellation system therapy. While living in Brazil, Efu has also been traveling in different countries such as India, Egypt, South Korea, China, Bolivia, Peru, Spain, Uruguay, Tanzania, Philippines, Hong Kong, USA, Poland, Kenya, and Sweden, facilitating trainings and workshops on different kinds of trauma healing. After the pandemic situation, FO has been giving international trainings, workshops, summits, webinars, podcasts, conferences, and individual therapy sessions and case consults online, all about trauma healing using somatic experiencing and family constellation system therapy. Efu is a co-founder of AFIA, Holistic Healing Center located in the northeast of Brazil. AFIA supports many people from the local community as well as national and international individuals that approaches the center to receive support in healing using different types of natural and holistic healing methodologies. Efu is a writer of the book titled Trauma Healing Using Family Constellation System Therapy and Somatic Experiencing. I am honored and excited to host Efu for this conversation in the first of the series of the Sōma Maṇdala podcast, and I hope you find this conversation enriching and insightful. Hi, Efu. Thank you so much for being a guest for my podcast today, and I'm very honored and thankful that you showed up today.
Thank you so much, Harry. And I'm very happy. We've been waiting. You ask for us to help in this podcast that I think is so important. This work is wonderful. We want everybody to know about it and benefit from it. So I'm happy to be here too.
Thank you. So, I have already shared an introduction about you, Efu, to our listeners, about the work, the background. So, I look forward to a very rich conversation. Let's begin at the start, the beginning. How did your personal encounter with somatic experiencing, healing, how did that begin? If you can share that story.
Yes, I can share that very briefly. Of course, long stories, but I will cut it short so that we don't just get lost into that one. But as a missionary, actually, I left Tanzania when I was 7 years old, and then I joined this missionary congregation in the United States. Then they said, well, where would you like to go to help people? Yeah, originally I was trained as a teacher and I love teaching, but also I always wanted to do mission to help others who I always felt like maybe they're less fortunate, maybe they need or I need them also. So that kind of thing. When I was sent, I decided to choose to go to Brazil. So the congregation said, okay, if you want to go to Brazil, we'll send you there. So I went to Brazil. I didn't know anybody there, but I started meeting people. Wherever we go, we meet our brothers and sisters. Yeah, this one well that. So when I started my work in Brazil, I first saw the street children need, but I think when I approached women, I saw a lot of violence and a lot of suffering among the women. And I decided, no, I'm going to invest with women healing their trauma of violence with their family members, with their husbands. And so I started working with them. But I actually found out that every time I'm approaching healing, because it's like liberating the trauma by verbal or maybe using a lot of emotional release, they will feel good for a short while, but then it comes back. Next day, next week, they come back, they are the same. They said, I felt better that day, but now I feel the same. And they go through the same traumatic process. And then I started actually searching outside, like, what else can we do? And eventually then I found this therapist who already studied SC from a teacher from another region in Brazil, and he introduced me to SC. I went to do the training. I was able to register right away. That first module of the training, I came back and attended those women in the community. Like 15 women, the transformation happened like wow. I was amazed with the changes right away. For me, it was like a miracle type of thing. Because this method of healing trauma, somatic experiencing, you focus on yourself. Before I used to call them, the women, victim of violence.
Hmm.
Yeah. So when you call people victim, you're already putting them, like you talk about corner, you're already putting them someplace where you want to save them. But eventually, I actually realized that through their bodies, they're empowered. They have their own energy. They have their own nervous system that can regulate itself in a way that then they can reclaim their power and to say no, like we put boundaries in SE, to
Yeah.
say no in a very simple way, and that actually their partners were able to hear. That is about empowerment. And that's what brought the changes. I was so happy. From that moment, I went after this method to become a teacher, because I said, I have to be a teacher to spread it all over the world. And sure enough, that's what I'm doing.
Beautiful. Thanks for sharing that. If I was reading your book, you written a book on healing trauma through family constellations and somatic experiencing. In the first chapter, I really love the title. I am the dream of my ancestors. At one point in that chapter, you speak about how you took ownership of your destiny by becoming a healer of traumas to continue the loving healing energy of the snail clan. You speak about your clan and the legend of the snail. So, coming from the African tradition, you must have been in touch with many other healing modalities growing up. Do you see any differences or parallels when you encountered somatic experiencing, or was it more complementing your existing practice?
Well, it's like building stones, yeah, building steps like that. Because where I was born, and as I explained in the book, actually, yeah, I could feel I learned a lot from my own parents and the ancestors about healing. We use herbal medicines. Your grandmother will tell you, you say, Grandma, I don't feel well. I feel like my belly is kind of making noises and it is aching. She said, go over there and pick that leaf over there and bring it to me. And then she will hold it and put some energy in there and tell you what to do with it. Make the tea, drink it, or just chew it and drink with water, and you will be okay. As simple as that. So I was raised in that, in that climate, in that way of doing things. And then there were a lot of rituals that we were raised with, really, that they did a lot of rituals for empowerment. But I remember when I was leaving home, yeah, I mean, before I left home, like when I'm approaching to be a young woman, 13 years old, and I have to go to secondary school. Many people will understand that our British system of education has this called boarding schools, where you go and stay for 6 months without going home and then come back. So I was going to boarding school at 13 years. And before that, my father said, yeah, I think it's time we do the ritual. And they did the ritual of empowerment, the ritual of passage. And that ritual for me, I'll never forget that. It's such words they say to you as they are doing the ritual. I don't want to go into the details of the ritual. That's another thing. But it's just what we get out of it. I remember walking and feeling them as accompanying me and pushing me from the back, saying, keep moving forward. You are okay. The world is yours.
Mm.
You will win everything you need. Like, just felt like that pride of coming from this clan and taking them forward, my legacy. So that was Yeah, that's I came from that. So I build on to what I receive from that perspective. And when I get to US, I got to Brazil, I just keep building on. And somatic experiencing came to complement what I knew already.
Mm, okay. That's so beautiful. If one of the intentions behind having this conversation is also to help our listeners understand some of these terms. For many of us in India, somatic experiencing might be not a very popular or a familiar term. So, how would you explain what this method is to someone who has never heard of it in the past? What is somatic experiencing?
Yes, somatic experiencing. I would love to be able to call it in a different name, but that's we remain with that. In every language, when I go teach all over the world, they try to translate it into their language where people can understand. Somatic, yeah. The nervous system, the way it is it helps us to live in our environment and adapt to the environment and whatever is happening in the environment, which actually it could be something rewarding, it could be something traumatizing. Yeah. So whatever happened in the environment, whether it's a sound through five senses or beyond five senses, you hear the sound, you jump. Where is that? You see something. Oh, is that a snake? Is that going to attack me? Or you touch something. Oh, is that hot? Okay. Constantly we're running into things that we have to always check whether it is dangerous or safe. It's all about safety. My safety. So somatization happens when we run into something that becomes too much. I'm walking and all of a sudden there's a big sound. And then before I know it, then I see people coming from all over the world running. And I don't know what is happening here. And then I collapse. I cannot even run because I don't know what's happening. So my system was somatized so much that was happening at that moment and collapsed.
Mm,
But that is trauma. So when we say somatic experience, we are talking about what the body has somatized from the traumas, from the events that were overwhelming, what they somatize. And then those experiences actually stay in the body, stuck in the body. And then when we have the opportunity, like when we are healing, we sit with the person, we invite them to actually revisit what they have somatized inside the body,
mm,
what the body have collected, in another word, somatization. What did I collect from all these? From the time I was born, like I said, even being born, it's a trauma sometimes. You come out from a very safe place to a very loud world and very hot and very, so the body somatized immediately all those big experiences that are very overwhelming. Yeah. So then we are listening to that, experiencing to help it to get off your system because the event is over.
okay. So that's so beautifully put. I'll just build on a couple of terms that you mentioned here.
Yeah.
Starting with somatizing. So how I hear you is when I encounter an event, something is happening around me, and I feel this is too much or it's happening too fast, and I can't handle this. My system could take it into my body, and that is called somatizing. So can I also somatize something that is energizing? I mean, or is it always
Yes.
that's also a
Yes.
possibility?
Yes. 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 That's what I'm saying. I was saying that, there's a lot. Some events are rewarding and some events are they can be difficult. So we somatize all of that. Only that there's something here about the cortical brain.
Mm-hmm.
Our cortical brain has a tendency of holding on things.
Mm,
So when I feel pain because something happened in the past, I somatize something. Sometimes I get stuck on that pain and I forget that my body is capable of somatizing rewarding experiences or somatizing painful experiences.
right.
So when I am able to actually become aware, I can revisit the body and there's a one place of the body that will have those positive somatization.
Yeah.
And in a somatic experiencing, this is what we call the pendulation. So somebody come and they say, "Oh, I feel pain here, and I feel pain here, and I feel terrible here and terrible there." We said, "Oh, wow. So is there any part in the body that is feeling well?" And people kind of go like that. They say, yeah, I feel like my feet and my thighs are feeling more comfortable. Then we go there. That's where there's some good feeling. So we go there because that is like a resource. We pendulate to that good feeling. And then actually when we stay in the good feeling, the other painful feeling begin to also come out. So it's
Mm.
through the resourcing of that kind that the somatic experiencing work. Yeah, both somatization are there, and we need to recognize and remember that life is not stuck. Life is moving from that to that. Yeah.
So I have a question. As you said, we can somatize both experiences. If I take the instance of, I have a friend who has a very strong fear of being in a flight because there was this one time when the flight went into a turbulence very
Yeah.
badly. Nothing happened. It settled down. He's an entrepreneur. He mentioned how though there's so many other flights you've taken and maybe even first time you flew, there's that excitement of being in a flight. After this one event, he's been many years, he's been trying to avoid taking a flight. So it has a business impact also. It has an impact on how much work he can do. So what made me curious was you had so many exciting, maybe fun experiences being on a flight. Then there was this one moment of a turbulence. So, is it the cortical brain function that makes us hold on to the pain or the fear more than all those pleasurable or happier moments for the same event?
Yes. Yes, it's the cortical brain because the cortical brain keep on thinking on how the cortical brain goes like this. What if we died at that moment? We could have died. Oh my God. We get stuck on the story. And if they come to you as a client comes, they will say, oh my gosh, the moment that there was that turbulence, it feels like we could have died right away. Then we get fearful of dying because we are thinking of it, we could have died. This is why really in this work we don't encourage too much stories because we get stuck on the story, the
Story.
thinking of the story. So then I will say to that client, okay, you could have died, but you know what, you didn't die. You survived and you came down and you arrived to that place where you wanted to go, which may be visiting a friend or maybe you went to the wedding. So then I actually asked them, what happened afterwards? What else was rewarding that you experienced after that moment? And they said, oh, yeah, we went to an event. It was beautiful. Everybody enjoyed. Then now I invite them to stay with the positive feeling. So
Mm.
they're able to let go of that place where they stuck. There's a phrase I always really say when I'm teaching is trauma is a fixation.
Fixation.
Yeah, we have a tendency because of our cortical brain fixated ourselves in a traumatic place.
Mm.
Yeah, because this trip you went, there were so many nice things. You were excited, you got in the plane, you find somebody else, they served nice food, you were enjoying, you could sit down here. And then afterwards, there were so many wonderful things happen, but you just still remember just this one moment that the turbulence happened, which is actually a usual thing for a flight to happen. Yeah.
Mm.
So we do a lot of education actually, inviting people to enjoy before the event, after the event, and then they realize that the moment of the turbulence has passed.
Mm.
Let's live the present moment now.
Beautiful. So, one clarification because oftentimes in the current medical narrative, when it comes to mental health, most of the diagnosis gets perceived as oh, if I have, let's say, hypertension, it's a disease. But do you look at trauma as a disease or would you qualify it as something else?
Yeah, yeah, you're right. What you said. Trauma is not a disease.
Okay.
Trauma happens because of how we respond to the event itself. When there's an event, like we can go back to this flight, somebody is in the plane, and then it started trembling. It goes like that. It goes through the waves, through the clouds, and then it goes, and everybody get a little scared. So in that moment, if this person hold on so much with so much, oh my gosh, I'm going to die, I'm going to die. So their response. So however they are responding, they're holding so tight to the seat, they're holding so tight to themselves, and they're so scared. That energy of holding so tight, this is what actually we call trauma.
Mm.
It's not the event themselves,
Okay.
not the events. It's the way they reacted. And actually, the events, daily events, It could be real event or it could be even imaginary.
Mm-hmm.
Can you believe it? I can give you a quick another example than this one of the flight. Okay, this person told me my mother almost died when I was 3 years old. She was very sick and she almost died. Mhm. And she said she started crying as she's telling this. And she said, it was so scary. I was so scary. And you could see they were stuck there. And now they are 60 years old. So then we keep working and noticing the body, what is happening and present moment. Then eventually I said, by the way, so your mother died. She said, no, my mother is 98 years old. She's still alive. Oh, right. How do you feel about it? "Oh, I feel good when I remember, but in that moment it was very hard. You see, when the mother was sick, some aunt, as we are working, I'm cutting this short so we have more time for other questions. Well, somebody she heard, she's 3 years old,
Mm.
a child's perception only. She hears the adult say, oh my gosh, she's in coma. She could die. She might die. She might die. Will she survive? No. We don't. She might die. So the little child heard the word die, die. So the little child's body was, my mother is dead.
Mm.
So froze. Imagine how is it going to be? My mother is dead. And she lived all this life from when she was 3 until 60 without the mother, even though the mother was there. So what I said, trauma, event of trauma, imaginary event of trauma, leaves the reactions of how we actually respond to that.
Mm.
Yeah. How I understood it, how I perceive it, and how I interpreted it. That is where the trauma lies.
Okay. So, in a way, what you're saying, even if I look at both the examples that we just now shared, when a trauma happens, I get stuck in a certain loop of behavior because there's a stuck energy that is somatized. Now,
Yes.
that can manifest as perhaps an overreaction to if I get into that flight, it will crash, or a continuing behavior pattern in a certain context with people, things like that. And what you're saying is when we are able to allow to move beyond, like you were saying, of that pendulation, what happened before, what happened later, we help the person recover more choice that, oh, I could do something different also, not just this.
Yes. Yes, not only that, you help them to again go back to experiencing the body. It's felt sense. Example could say, yeah, you can imagine before your mother was sick. Do you remember the experience of being your mother holding you, cuddling? Yes, I do remember. Then how is that? So going to the body to recover this experience that was already there, but it's no longer remembered because we are stuck in this one moment of trauma. Yeah. And then you can ask them, yeah, even after your mother got better, did you remember the moment that you went out with your mom? Yeah, yeah, yeah. When I was in kindergarten, she is the one who took me to school. Oh, okay. How was that? She held me. She gave me some food. Okay, let's experience that. You know what I mean? What we are actually doing in trauma healing with somatic experiencing, it's constantly re-educating and renegotiating to help them to come off the stuck place. You
Mm.
are right by the word stuck.
Yeah, beautiful. And is this helping of a person to self-regulate? Can it only be done with another person, like a practitioner who has been trained, or can at some point a person learn to just self-regulate themselves after a while? Is it something possible?
Yes, it is possible. After I learned it, like I learned, I'm already like as a teacher. Of course, I have to constantly do my own self-regulation. Well, like, okay, I was in a class. This morning, I was teaching the whole morning and then I did demo. Okay, then I felt a little tired. And I know this afternoon I have this work with you and I have to go. So at one point, after lunch, just sit here and notice what is happening in my body. I could feel like I'm tense here on my mandibles, maybe because of speaking and my eyes. I was focusing on the class with more than 75 people. Wow, yeah. Just sit back on the chair. So I did my own self regulation. Otherwise, actually, the traumatic energy accumulates also.
Yeah.
What is tiring? That tiredness. Tiredness is like I have some energy that is stuck in my system and my muscles that is not allowing the key, not allowing the energy to flow freely. So as I sat just a little bit and follow my body's energy, over suddenly I just released a lot of energy and then I felt good. And then now I'm not tired as I'm talking to you. So I do this constantly. That's what people ask me. If you travel so much and you have so much work, how do you manage? Exactly. I manage by self-regulating before I sleep, during the day, and so on. Even when I'm teaching, from time to time, you remember these people will, I always stop a little bit and I go, ah, and notice the body. I'm self regulating. You
Yeah.
can do alone after you learn it, but you can also teach people in the sessions as you teach them. Yeah. Okay.
Yes. So that brings me to the question, since you mentioned you do travel across so many different countries and continents, teaching, sharing this, and you must have met people from all cultures, diverse geographies, with different pasts and histories. Have you noticed anything around trauma that you see differently or similarly across cultures? Or is it all the same, or is there is also uniqueness to trauma, the way it manifests in different cultures?
You know, one thing I just love and I celebrate that is to discover that across the culture, across the world, we are all human beings. We are all really, we all have the same kind of nervous system. Because when the trauma comes, it is the nervous system that reacts and respond. The nervous system, either it get very tight, either it collapse, So that's the nervous system. So the nature of the nervous system is the same all over the world. So what changes is the behavior that we have developed from how we learned from our families. Then that's what you will call culture. Yeah. Yeah. So like, yeah, the Brazilian culture, people will take everything very normal. They dance, they go to carnival, and you see them very happy. And everyone say, yeah, I guess there's no trauma in Brazil because they're always happy. Yeah. But that's not true.
Mm.
When we sit with people and help them get in touch with the nervous system, which is the same, you will find a lot of trauma. So that's what we work with. Then you go to opposite culture, like here where I am in China, Shanghai, and yeah. So people are really very, very, very polite and they want to please the teacher. India too, I remember people just want to really be so kind to the teacher. So they don't want to make any mistake. They want to control themselves so that they do everything right. So this is the behavior. So they might not, they don't even want to show you that they still have pain or there's a trauma or this, because they want to show you that they are good. You work on the goodness, you show your goodness all the time, because this is what you learn from your culture. That is the behavior, but it doesn't mean that these people have no trauma. Yeah, just like on the other side of Brazil, they are very much all over the place. And then you come here, you find people are very inside, inward. The traumas are all there. Art of focusing on the sensations, the body, the felt sense. It's so important because it helps both cultures that are so diverse, help them to get in touch with the bodily sensation, the felt sense, and be in the present moment. And then they start trembling, they start liberating the trauma. They said, oh my gosh, I was so ashamed of it. And we educate, we normalize. It's all right. We're all ashamed at some moment and it's okay. So as you held that space, which we call a safe space, all cultures understand from their bodily sensation what is it to be safe, to feel safe. Anyone who feels safe, they release their trauma independent of their. So that is the beauty about it.
Interesting. And in your sessions, we also learned that the trauma responses often comes in the form of a fight, flight, freeze that gets incomplete. Oftentimes, these terms get used in a very popular fashion where they are looked at as fight response is bad or flight response freeze is bad. But I think one of my key learnings with you has been how these are actually active defense mechanisms and we are restoring their functional capacity. So maybe can you speak a little more about what are these responses? How do we look at them?
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. I will do that. Yeah, that's very important because actually it becomes like a mantra. Everybody knows it. Fight, flight, freeze, fight, flight, three F's, and da, da, da. And some people even say, well, about no, women do not go through that. Women are very different. And, I have had all these arguments about all the nervous system go through this. And then with the Porges, we have added with the Porges knowledge too, we have added one more, which is called social engagement. That is a natural way of survival responses. When there's any little stress, I mean, when you feel like you are threatened, even if something just passed on your face very quickly, of course our body does what? As simple as that. That's a fight. I wanted to defend myself. It's about survival. Every nervous system does this. That's the nature of the nervous system, is to help us survive all the things that happen during the day. Life itself, it's like we are in the wilderness, like wild animals, and how the prey and the predators are always in constant movement. And we have things that are dangers that can happen all the time. So the trauma events will never cease, but we are learning how to have a resilience in our body so that we can live better with whatever that has to happen in life. So when anything comes, the first thing really, first of all, you hear the sound, you can see all the animals. The first thing we orient, where, what, and then when they see something, then they say, okay, that's too big, I have to run.
Mm.
No, that's okay. I think I can push it away. That was just a piece of branch that dropped off. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
but it is not a cortical brain interpretation. It's the nervous system. It's made that way for our own survival. Yeah. So it happens constant. And then when the event is too big, then we collapse in order to survive our life, which is called freeze, right?
Yeah.
For the animals, actually, after the event passed, because they don't have a cortical brain that tells stories over and over again, yeah, for the animals, they immediately shake it off when they feel safe. They shake off all this energy and they continue on and on again. That's why they're immune to trauma. But for the human being, because we tell stories, but we are not in touch with the body. So that fight, flight, or freeze energy, it's in the body and
Mm.
it stays there and it builds on because when we don't release it at once, then it more comes, and then until we collapse, we cannot move anymore. Yeah. So it is really important. It's a function of a nervous system for our survival purposes. And it's for all animals, all races, everything that is alive that has a nervous system.
Yeah.
Answer, did I answer that?
Yes, yes. I'll just build on it with some a couple of phenomena that is currently happening. So part of my work, apart from therapy, is also in coaching and leadership development. So one of the phenomena I have observed in the last couple of years after COVID is that there's been extremely large scale layoffs that have been happening across companies because AI is becoming more popular. A lot of investments are going away from human interventions. And I have seen in the last 1 year of practice offering somatic sessions that many people who got impacted by the sudden loss of job, many who were in the role where they had to execute that kind of a decision, or even people who witnessed, though they did not really took the decision or got impacted, are having very different kinds of impact in their body. Would you qualify this kind of a phenomena also as something that is holding a potential for trauma? And if so, how can somatic experiencing as a method help in a corporate context, in a leadership context, where you have to make some tough decisions like this? Do you think this is also something that can be a practice or a tool that can help people at the receiving end or at the action level to practice?
Yeah. Actually, everything we do with awareness. Somatic experiencing as a method of healing trauma. It has three levels. One level is helping creating the safe place for the body to release its traumatic energy. Second level is to educate the body. We call it somatic education. To educate the body and the cortical brain to become aware of things. And the third level, I think it is the preparation. It can be preparation after and preparation before. So if I know that I'm going to have to announce to a good number of people in the company that we actually have to lay off people, instead of beating around the bush, instead of lying to them, instead of making lots of promises like a good politician, you really kind of tell them the reality and prepare. People have their own rights, are not paid. Yeah. So if you prepare, give them their rights and tell them this is the reality. I want to tell you ahead of time, in a month or 2 months, we will have to close this company. So people begin to prepare themselves so that they can actually look for other jobs while they still have some money left from this company. Yeah. So if you do that, even if it was in a risk, but you don't know if it will happen, you tell the truth. We sit with a lot of compassion and love. We say, look, there is a possibility that we have to close the company. How do we feel about that? And give time to people to mourn, to cry, to shake it off, to understand better. And when people actually release some of the fearful energy, they can take it very easily. Some of them will say, all right, I'm out of fear tomorrow because I was promised another job. You know what I mean? So when you tell people preparations, I use a C for all those three stages I told you.
Mm,
I use a C for the preparation for whatever might happen. And I use SC for preparation for getting into the new jobs or getting into the new moment, getting into the surgery. So, like it's like that. People are going for surgery. I prepare them before the surgery. And then I can see what is happening during the surgery and how actually their nervous system is taking it. Then I will work with them after the surgery. So, how does the body feel after the surgery? What energy do you feel? What else do we need to liberate to live better? You know what I mean? So it's the
yes.
same. The company can do that too. Okay.
Thank you. That's really great. If we have shared so many very powerful stories when you teach us about how, in your personal practice, you have worked with healing, is there any one story that comes to your mind right now that you feel has been a very transformative experience? I know almost every encounter is transformative, but anything that pops up as we speak today that you would like to share with the listeners?
Uh-huh. I have many stories, but it is very interesting on how when you ask me, it depends on what story just comes up like that. It's, as you say, a story. I know you told me before, but I forgot about it. And now, as you said it, the story that just came to me, it's amazing story. It's a very simple one. It's the story of this man whose father used to drink and come home, who is now coming to me while he's 40 years old. So his father used to come home and say, he was drunk. If you don't obey me, if you don't do this, I'm going to abandon you and leave you here. They were just two kids with the mother. I'm going to leave you and your mother here, and I'm going to go to the capital city. That time was Rio de Janeiro. Men used to like to go there and enjoy life. So I'm going to go to Rio de Janeiro and live there, and then you will all die of hunger. Now, I don't know what is the other son, but the older son, when he heard the word hunger, his stomach responded. His belly responded to hunger as if it is already happening. It's amazing. So, okay, he said that happened a lot. So he came to me, he's 40 years old, and he said, feel some kind of emptiness in my belly. Empty. Every day I wake up, I feel empty. I eat breakfast, it's still empty. I eat lunch, it's still empty. I don't know what else to do. I went to the doctors. They cannot discover what is there. They say everything is normal. And he said, I'm really desperate because I just cannot, I get nervous. So I said, okay, let's begin. So I will invite you to notice your body. After we do a nice stabilization, we track the bodily sensation. So when we were tracking the bodily sensation, pop, the image comes up. And the image was exactly the father pointing the finger on him and saying, you're going to die of hunger.
Mm,
He said, oh, I just see, because I saw him looking like this. I said, so what are you noticing now? He said, I see my father pointing finger to me saying that I'm going to die of hunger. Oh, okay. So then he ended up telling me the piece of story about that. He was stuck on that moment. He was only 3, 4, 5 years old, but now he's 46. He's still feeling, he manifested the hunger.
mm,
Now, the very interesting thing is the father never went to Rio de Janeiro. He is still there. He was still there while he's telling me the story. Huh. So, so what I did with him is just to help him resource what could have happened at that moment. What could have when he heard his father saying that? What did he want to do? Poor little boy. He
Mm.
wanted to have run and held the father's leg so the father can now run to Rio de Janeiro. So we said, well, all that energy he was holding of holding the father's legs, this is what actually was taking away all of his energy, no matter how much he ate. Yeah. So eventually, to cut the long story short, I just continued helping him. And in one session, it was one session. We concluded that session. The following week, he just came up for checkup again to see how he was doing. He told me, that sensation went away. I'm so happy because I can sleep well. He said, I just kind what is this method all about? Because he thought I did miracle, but it is somatic. Isn't that a beautiful little story?
Yeah, it's so beautiful. Thanks for sharing, Efu.
Simple.
It's very simple and magical. I mean, it's like a, yeah. As we come to a close for this conversation, you've mentioned so many different aspects of trauma, healing, how nervous system can feel too much. If there is one practice or insight that you would like to offer to somebody listening who is struggling through trauma right now, what would that one simple practice be?
One simple practice will be whenever you feel nervous, just look for a chair that has a support on your back, a chair that helps you to feel the feet grounded. Yeah, hapticity. Yeah, like you can feel that you have a touch. Your feet are in touch with something, your back are in touch with something. And then after you sit and feel the comfort, get your mind off thinking about the trauma and just notice what is happening in your body. Your breath gently. This is resource, yeah? And the chair that holds you. And then one other important thing, second to follow up, just orient. Like look around really slowly, turning your neck back. This is certifying for safety. Once you turn around slowly and notice that that's not fine. I'm in my room. I'm in my living room. I'm fine actually. There's a deep breath that people feel. And then they said, oh yeah, I'm feeling much better. Yeah. And then you can stay a little bit just enjoying that feeling much better. And really, that's all you need to do. 3 minutes maybe to start with. This works like magic. During pandemic, I gave lots of talks and this was the savior for many people. And then
That's so beautiful, simple and beautiful. So, uh, what keeps you going, Efo? You have such a crazy schedule of travels. At this point in your life, what is your inspiration that makes you keep doing this work year after year?
really what inspired me is this essay, somatic experiencing, healing trauma. It's like a magic. To see somebody come to me, they're so desperate, or somebody even want to commit suicide or want to do something tragic. And then I sit with them for 10 minutes and then they change completely. It looks like magic, right? So for me, I want to do more. I want to do more everywhere. I want to do more. I want to heal the whole world because it's so simple.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for that. I know we haven't touched upon some other magical aspects of your work, including family constellation and transgenerational healing. So would love that conversation at some point. Thank you for joining today and for sharing your journey and your insights into somatic experiencing. I hope this is insightful and valuable to all who listened. If somebody who listened to this want to reach out to you, what is the best way?
Well, my email, my WhatsApp, I think you have it
Yeah.
there. You can share it
I
in
can
there.
share your email in the description of the podcast for anyone who would like to reach out to FU. And I'll also give a link to your book so people
Yeah.
can read that.
Yeah.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
so
Thank you.
much, FU, for being here today.
Bye.
Hi, I hope you found this conversation insightful and enriching. It would mean the world to me if you could share in the comments below the one aha moment that you had about trauma and healing while listening to this conversation. I'm also keen to hear from you any other feedback about this podcast. And what would interest you as a topic for me to cover in the upcoming podcast episodes? If you wish to support my efforts in bringing trauma informed practices consistently and professionally to all of you, please consider liking and subscribing to my channel at the link below. Thank you.